Hello geometry students, today's learning target is to review arc length and area of a sector. So if you look at problem number 1, the radius is 16 feet and we want to find the area of the sector whose central angle is 110 degrees. So last week we learned that the area of a sector is the angle over 360 times pi r squared. So we'll say 110 degrees over 360 times pi times 16 squared. Then we'll go to our calculator and type that in. 110 divided by 360 times 16 squared. Notice we get a decimal, so I'm going to hit the fraction button. So the exact answer is 704 over 9 pi. And then to get the decimal, I'll go back to my calculator and I'll say times pi. So it's approximately 245.74. And the unit would be feet squared. So this is the exact answer in green. And I'm going to add my unit. And then the decimal approximation. So let's take a look at problem number 3 before going on to number 2. So in number 2, we have a diameter of 24 feet. We want the arc length, which is the outside of the circle, if the central angle is 33 degrees. So the arc length formula is the angle over 360 times pi times the diameter. So that'll be 33 degrees over 360 times pi times 24. I'll go to my calculator. I'll say 33 divided by 360 times 24. I'll press the fraction button. So the exact answer is 11 pi over 5. So it's 11 over 5 pi, and the unit would be feet. Then to get the decimal, I'll multiply that by pi, and you get 6.911. The next two problems, we want to reverse the process. So if you compare number 2, it's very similar to number 1, except it's working backwards. So here I tell you the area of a sector is 81 pi square feet, and the central angle is 40 degrees, and I want us to find the radius. So in this formula, I'll say 81 pi, because that's the area of the sector. I'll highlight that in pink. That's equal to the angle, 40 degrees, over 360 times pi times the radius squared. And our goal is to solve for the radius. There's a couple ways to solve this. One way we solved this was to put this over 1 and cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, what I mean by that is I'm going to multiply the 81 and the 360. So when I multiply 81 and 360, I get 29,160. Pi is equal to 40 pi r squared. Now to solve for this problem, I'm going to divide both sides by 40 pi. Notice the pi's are going to reduce, so the pi's reduce out. So I'm going to take 29,160 and divide that by 40, and I'll get r squared is equal to 729. So the radius is the square root of 729, and the square root of 729, I'm going to go to my calculator. Square root of 729 is 27. So the radius is 27 feet. It is possible that the answer becomes a decimal and not an integer. Let's take a look at problem number 4. In problem number 4, we have a circle with the arc length of 84 pi and a central angle of 30 degrees, and we want to find the radius. So I'll plug in the 84 pi in for the arc length, 30 for the angle, and then I'll say pi times the diameter. Once I find the diameter, I should be able to find the radius by dividing by 2. So again, to solve this, I'll put this over 1, and I'll cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 84 and 360. Doing that, I get 30,240 pi is equal to 30 pi times diameter. I'll divide both sides by 30 pi. When I do that, the pi's reduce out. So I'm going to type 30,240 divided by 30 on my calculator. And when I do that, the diameter is 1,008. In order to get the radius, I'll take the diameter and divide by 2. And I get the radius to be 504. So the radius is 504 feet. For problem number 5, I suggest you pause the screen, work that problem out, and then come back to the video and I'll explain the solution. So let's take a look at problem number 5. The first thing I need to do is find the diameter. So if I know the radius is 29 that I just highlighted in yellow, then the diameter is 2 times 29, or 58. So then I'm going to substitute into the formula here in pink. Then I use my calculator to get the exact answer, 261 over 20 pi feet. And then I use my calculator to get the decimal approximation of 40.997, which rounds to approximately 41 feet. Again, pause the screen and try problem number 7. If we take a look at problem number 7, we have the diameter of 30 feet. So to find the area of the sector, I need the radius. So here in blue, I divided the diameter by 2 to get the radius to be 15 feet. Then I'm going to plug into the formula here in yellow. And when I use my calculator, I'll get this answer, the exact answer in terms of pi. So 415 over 8 pi feet squared. And when I use my calculator, I get the decimal approximation of 162.97 feet. Pause the screen and try the last problem on this page. Okay, so for the last problem, we were told that the arc length of a circle is 44 pi feet. We have a central angle of 120 degrees, and we want to find the diameter. So I'm going to use this formula and substitute the numbers. 44 pi is equal to the central angle over 360 times pi times the diameter. I'm going to put this over 1, and I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm just going to multiply the 44 times 360. Doing that, I get 15,840 pi is equal to 120 pi times the diameter. I'll divide both sides by 120 pi. Doing that, the pi's reduce. So when I divide 15,840 by 120, I get the diameter to be 132. So the diameter is 132 feet. If I wanted the radius, which I didn't ask here, but I would divide the diameter by 2, and the radius would be 66 feet.